Welcome, welcome, welcome. Um, this has been a difficult topic to nail down and center around. So hopefully I've got it in the title and you are interested in hearing about. So this is the question. What does it mean to make an offering to your ancestors backward and forward with your life? That's that's the question that I'm opening with. Somehow, some way, this question came in response to a conversation that I was having with someone about being confronted with the parts of ourselves that do not know how to provide for ourselves and that do not believe that we can provide for ourselves. And for those of you out in the world who don't have this issue, like, you can make money happen however, whenever you need it. That's like miracle work. There are actually people in the world who, and by the world, I think I really am really speaking of Western culture, but there are people who struggle with exactly how to do this. So it's a common theme. And there are more and more people who are being faced with a reality that says you no longer have access to somebody else being responsible for your paycheck or providing your paycheck. You now have to figure out how to provide for yourself. And that's a big thing. That's a big uh, perception change for people. And I don't even know what all the other words are. For some reason my mind is really struggling with this conversation, and perhaps because it's something that I am definitely inside of right now. That conversation was actually being led by somebody else sharing their experience, but as often happens when we are being genuine with one another, what someone else or what comes up in conversation with others, even if it's not about us or directed to us, it is often a reflection of something within us. Um, and so it's worthwhile to take a look at what's coming up when you are witnessing a conversation or participating in a conversation with someone. I highly encourage that practice of, like, what's being communicated to me that's perhaps less obvious than the words that are being spoken. So this question of confronting the parts of ourselves, or being confronted with the experience of not knowing how to make your life work financially. What what can we do for ourselves that can help us? I'm going to use the word resolve those themes. That's the question that started occurring to me. And I listened to quite a few things over the past week that have been helpful to me, and I want to share some of those things with you here. Especially if you are someone who is struggling with, how do I make my material life work, my resources, my self-sufficiency. Now, I do want to address that self-sufficiency piece, because I think that's part of the reason why we struggle so much with this in Western culture. And keeping in mind that I'm really questioning the use of the word Western culture. I've mentioned that in a couple of other episodes, but I'm going to use it for now until I understand what it is that I'm looking at or wanting to communicate about that. But what this means, why I'm using that language right now, is because in our cultural identity, we have been trained to be very independent, to not need anyone else, and to not, we dare not ask for help. It is shameful to ask for help. And that's wrong. Like, that's just wrong. We weren't put on an empty planet, you know? Even Adam and Eve, if you go by that story, even Adam and Eve weren't the first people on the planet. There were other people, other humans, other beings on the planet. So right there, we have an issue. Our minds are operating in isolation about something that's really meant to be a communal effort, provisions. And by communal, I am involving the creator, like, and more than human beings, like all of us here in this experience, our provisions, our resources, they come from all directions. And oftentimes we have to ask for help. So that right there, if you're not used to asking for help, it's probably a practice that would benefit you to get comfortable with, or at least acclimated to. And, sometimes asking for help is, if you have a business of your own, letting people know that you have the thing that you have available on offer. Because the help that you're asking for is, please support my business. If you believe in what I do, if you get value from what I offer, please support in a way that is materially meaningful in this world that we live in. That's a way of asking for help. I need to get better at that. Most people that I know who have a business of their own, especially a service-based business, that's not like, I'm thinking of dry cleaning and hairstyling right now. Like, those seem to be easy for people to say, yeah, I do this thing. I have this thing, For people who have other skills that are very easy to give away, this group of folks, it's important to learn how to ask the world to support your business, your little marketplace, your shop. Okay, so I'm going to bring in, so I was listening to a woman, and I tune into her channel every now and then. Sometimes she, like, her expertise is something I'm not an expert in. And so sometimes I'm just completely lost by what she's saying, and I can't follow, and I don't want to try, because there's just so much for me to take in and be interested in. So she goes deep. And for those of you who like to go deep on the topics she goes deep on, she, like, numerology and like what feels to me like the shadow world. Her name's Solara. I think she's changed her channel on YouTube to Solara Rises. Definitely worth checking out. And she has a very strong, clear way of delivering her messages, and they are definitely esoteric messages. So for my esoteric friends, great channel to check out. I'm sharing her here because in her most recent transmission, we'll call it that, she was speaking a lot about planetary movements. Now, why do I spend so much time here talking about astrology and planetary movements? Because it's a very, very useful language to learn, and to learn how to apply to your life. It's very useful. one of the things that it can do is it can give us some objectivity, a little bit of space between the immediacy of our lives and the story of our lives. The human brain loves and thrives on storytelling. And we know this because we have had a love for television, movies, theater, books, campfire storytelling. There are those of us who love to listen to our elders tell stories. Our mind is designed to receive messages and connection through stories. And the astrological story is just one more story by which we can connect with life and do life with some depth. So I find it very useful, and I encourage other people to go deeper with your celestial astrological understanding, constellational understanding. It's not fluff unless you let it remain on the pop culture surface level of transmission, of the way that it's used and displayed out there. So I can't repeat all of what she said. I took some notes, and it has a lot of relevance for what I was experiencing in this conversation earlier about having parts of ourselves that convince the rest of ourselves that we don't know how to support ourselves, that we don't know how to provide for ourselves with the tools and gifts and skills and connections and communities that we've been given. And again, this is something that it's been a theme that I have been working for all of my adult life. So this is very resonant for me. This is very important for me to also continue to work with and understand and get better with. One of the things she spoke about was how we are coming into a season in the human story. This is how I'm saying it. We're coming into a season of the human story where so much of what has passed for reality is dropping away. And you can see that in so many different areas of society. I think one of the most interesting to me is the just the growing disinterest in the movies. And one of the reasons why this is interesting to me is because I have fallen out of, I have been watching fewer and fewer movies over the years. And coming from a place of having been excited, like back in the day when we used to go to the midnight showing of a new release and we would stand in line for a couple of hours waiting for the thing. That's what I used to do, and I used to love it. I used to know all the movies that were coming out, blah, 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 blah. It used to be a big part of my life. And it's been pretty, I think 2001 was the first big moment where I just separated myself from the entertainment, including the news at that point. But what I'm saying is there have been stages to this for me, and why this is relevant now, why this is surprising to me now, is that I thought it was just me. I thought that it was just me having removed myself from a lot of what passes for pop culture and just being out of touch in that way. But what I'm hearing from other people is that there's a dropping lack of interest just across the population in a lot of things. But I find it interesting that and also I get it. I understand why. I'm not complaining about it at all. I'm yeah, it's about time. But how interesting that we were all so hypnotized in the ways that we were. If it wasn't Hollywood or the music industry, it's the auto industry, or it's the beauty industry, or it's the work culture, corporate culture. That also has a hypnotic effect on us. Religion, family dynamics, politics, philosophy, like it's everywhere. And those things and our relationship to those ways of being and thinking and doing, they're being disrupted. And I found that very interesting to hear what she had to say about it. And I do encourage you to go look at her most recent video. It's the title is something along the lines of The End of Ignorance. She talks about source codes and harmonic coherence. And coherence, chaos and coherence, those are the two words, or two of the words that I started off with at the beginning of the year as words for 2026. And I hear the words popping up among different people in different communities. So I do think chaos and coherence are themes that we're working with this year for sure. So in the spirit of recognizing that the way that we have been trained and conditioned and taught to live our lives, the things, institutions, dreams and desires that we have been trained and conditioned and taught to want and prioritize also being disrupted. What does that leave us with? What does that leave you with? And that's a question, pause and be with that question for a while so that you can, like, what does that mean for you? And then we come back to, what does it mean to make an offering of your life, or to make an offering to your ancestors forward and backward with your life? What gifts have you received through your lineage? And I'm talking about any and all gifts, the gift of listening, like being able to listen so much so and so well that the person with you says somewhere in there, I can tell that you see me. I feel heard. No one's ever asked me that before. Like, providing people a place where they can go deeper within themselves and experience more of themselves. That's the age we're coming into. Again, okay, so this is where you guys get to participate with me in the comments. What gifts do you have? What is a natural orientation that you have? Those are things that can be offered back to the ancestors. And I asked this question of, what does it mean to make an offering to your ancestors with your life? What does that mean? You sit with that question. You may or may not get immediate responses. I am pretty sure that the longer you sit with that question, the deeper the responses will be. And by deeper, we might mean more simple, but that's an ongoing life practice. And if you need an anchor, if you are someone who is having a difficult time right now, holding on, what's true? That's a big question that a lot of people are asking. I hear more and more people struggling with, I don't even know what's true anymore. What does it mean to make an offering to your ancestors, forward and backward and forward with your life? And what I mean by forward and backward is the ancestors who brought you here and the ones who are coming after you. And you don't have to be someone making other humans to be an ancestor. What legacy are you able to leave? What are you called to offer back to the web of life? These are the questions, and these are anchors. And some of us are going to need these kinds of anchors going forward, because the things that we were trained on up to this point, a lot of those things aren't coming with us. And now is the time that we discover our own ideas, our own language, and our own way making. We used to have a lot of way showing. And it was beautiful, the way showers. But we're coming into a time where more and more and more of us are going to be making our own way, because the old way, it's like that bridge that falls out. It was a beautiful, amazing bridge. Maybe it was one of those terrifying hanging bridges. Like, oh my gosh. Or a stone bridge, or, it could even be our San Francisco bridge, maybe many, many generations into the future. But a lot of bridges, they eventually fall apart or fall into disuse. They fall away. This is a visual theme that we have in our human community. And so then we have to find a new way. We build over the old bridge, or we create a new path. We come up with something that flies over the gap. We lay out new material, whatever it is. We are now coming into the way maker phase of our human story. And having anchor questions and knowing that you are part of continuity, even as part of the continuity is being disrupted, and making space and making way for something that not very many of us, and I don't think any of us, can see very clearly right now. These are anchors that I'd like to offer to us. I'm reminding myself to ask this question. You can take this question into prayer. You can take this question into your dream time. Make a practice of this question. If you have no idea, that's okay. Make a practice of this question. What does it mean to make an offering to my ancestors? Forward and backward and forward with my life. And be with that question. And let me know in the comments if something comes to you. Okay. I think this might be the episode that I share. I had planned to walk us through the house system as a way of identifying, as a way of having an ancestral conversation. But I'm not going to do this in this episode. I will save it for another time. Thank you for listening. I am recording this on the 21st of March, 2026. I have a birthday coming up soon, and I've got a calendar right in front of me. And it is bringing up a lot of feelings, for sure. So I will return, and we will keep the conversation going. Thank you so much for being here.